Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live episode of the Proceed with Passion Q&A series. I'm your host, Terry Schilling, and with me, my special guest is a freelance mentor, web development consultant, Tom Hirst. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Really happy
I'm
to have
excited
you
to be
on.
here.
Sorry?
I said I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. I'm cutting you off. That's how excited I am. But Tom, we connected through Twitter. You've been dropping a lot of knowledge on there, getting a lot of traction in the freelance community. And so just wanted to bring you on to share some more of that insight, and then also hear about your journey too of starting your freelance career. It's what I like to do with these Proceed with Passion, as I get a call, Proceed with Passion Q&A series here. So Tom, let's really start. I know you talk about your story, and you studied multimedia and communication design at university, and then you jumped right into freelance right afterwards. Was this the plan all along, or what was that process?
It wasn't the plan all along. I mean, I always knew I kind of wanted to work for myself.
Okay.
But, went to university, got the degree, and afterwards I just thought, I'm going to go into web development. So the first step was to try and get a job in web development. And I think the entrepreneurial streak in me kind of held me back from giving that my all. So I came a close second in the job. And then I thought, you know what? I don't think this applying for jobs is for me. So I'm going to give this freelance thing a go. And 11 years later, here I am still.
Yeah, there you go. What were those first couple months like for you of figuring it all out?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, the first thing was just like scrambling for clients, as I guess anyone does, when they start freelancing.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I did there is just tell everyone that I know that I'm freelancing. So, friends, family, friends of family, family of friends, and all that jazz. And that's actually where I discovered my first client.
Nice. Just had like a close friend, family friend.
Well, it was a connection of my dad's, because my dad's an accountant. So he had a few business inroads with various people. And I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I'm getting into this WordPress thing, which is the tool that I use for the web development.
Yeah.
And he was just having a conversation with a client of his, actually. And he said, there's a contact of mine that's doing WordPress. And he made the connection then, because I brought that up. He made the connection between me and him. And he's like, oh, my son's trying to get into this WordPress, even though he had no idea what it was.
Yeah. Oh, man. What were your friends saying when you said, I'm just going to do a freelance, be my own boss? Because I feel like 10 plus years ago, freelancing had this negative notion to it of just like, oh, what's the problem? You can't get a job type of thing. Like, why are you doing this? Or maybe I'm not. Maybe it wasn't but like I find, sometimes people are just like, oh, you're going freelance? That's so hard. Why would you do that to yourself?
I mean, I think it was kind of expected of me just because of the traits that I have, that I would just go my own way, and perhaps the upbringing that I've had as well. So, I mean, it wasn't, I don't know whether it's different in the UK to the US, but it's not really seen that way as being an incredible tough route to take. People do it a lot in the UK. People go straight into freelance, and actually make a good go of it. So it didn't seem much of a problem to my friends.
Okay. Yeah, I always find that interesting of just, I've had a lot of support, but when some people go into it, from like other friends that I've had, they just really dread it and they don't really like it. And then it's kind of just that negative energy, kind of feeds off of everybody else and what they're talking about it. I'm sure we might get into it. Mindset plays such a huge part of succeeding in freelancing and being your own boss. But Tom, I want to ask you, when I say what was your most obscure project, what comes to mind in maybe those early days?
Obscure. Much of my projects were pretty much the same. They were all websites, but I do have an obscure client that I could talk about without probably mentioning names.
The industry product. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can remember one of the first sales meetings that I went to. Obviously, I was just desperate for any kind of work at the beginning. Yeah. And one of the sales meetings that I went to, it was for a photographer. And I can remember going to this address, and it was basically just like a dive warehouse. and just being really scared and just thinking, where have I come here? Is this what freelancing is all about? Going to these dingy warehouses and trying to sell websites. So yeah, I mean, that's probably about as obscure as it got for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I feel like I hear so many stories, especially from the writing side for me, of just the random products and things that you write about just to kind of get money, get paid, and get that experience.
Another one springs to mind, actually. Now you said that, I worked for a client who was selling erectile dysfunction pills.
Okay.
So that was pretty obscure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Just like, writing about that, or obviously designing things about that. I've had a few jobs like going through on Upwork, people reaching out to me and being like, man, should I take this? Like, I don't know if it really aligns, but money might be there. So that, it's pretty interesting.
How did you feel about that? Like, was it like a moral thing?
A little bit. I'd say, I guess just like a lot of thoughts, just like the researching, and then like even just the client too. I feel like a lot of them were just, it almost seemed like a content farm where they had the topic and they were looking for writers. So it was just really low pay, and it just felt like it would have been a stressful situation in general. From what
so just not a good fit, really.
Yeah. You kind of have that gut feeling. And I think, I want to talk to you about pricing projects, and I think we'll touch more onto that of just kind of trusting your gut and saying no if it's not really the right fit. But you've been doing this for over 10 plus years. You're offering a mentorship program. You've had a few books. So you're having some success. You're monetizing the business for sure. In your mind, if you look back, what memory is in like 4K high definition for the turning point in your freelance career?
I think the turning point for me was when I started to think about the value that I was providing other people, and like learning to know my own worth. That was the epiphany, I guess, what, started my upturn in, earning more money, but also building that confidence to sell my services, by thinking about the value that I was providing rather than man hours that I was giving. Yeah,
I think once you own it on that, you can communicate that much more clearly to clients, and you can add more parts of your service. At least like that's what I've discovered, instead of just like, okay, it's going to take me this much time to write a website and write this copy for you, but what else can I do for you to see the value into all that I'm doing for you? Like saving you money. It's super important.
Yeah. And also the individual value that you offer as a person, your unique skill set and the rapport that you build with certain clients over others, that's got its own value. It might be intangible, but it's still value and it's still there. Yeah,
absolutely. I often say, I feel like the reason I get a lot of clients and work with some of my high paying, consistent clients is because I'm easy to work with. And I try to give that vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. The soft skills is just massive. That's got its own value in its own right, aside from your core skill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sure in your mentorship program, you've come across a lot of freelancers hearing the same thing. How do I get high quality, consistent clients? But what is one thing that you see a lot of freelancers doing wrong when trying to get those type of clients?
Yeah, they start too broad, in terms of the marketing.
Okay.
So they try to appeal to too many people and end up appealing to no one in particular at all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of important to know who you want to work with and to niche down by using this, portraying the skills that you're really good at. Instead of just going scattergun approach and trying to just attract as many people as you can. That's the main one. That's the main error people make.
Yeah. What are some recommendations then that you have for people looking to niche down on that, right? To really own it and not be so broad in their marketing efforts.
Yeah. I think you've got to look at identifying your ideal service type. So you've got to think you might have a multiple amount of skills, but there'll be one that you do better than any of the others.
Yeah.
So hone in on that and double down on that, because if you've produced good results for people before, then obviously you've got proof of work as well in that skill already.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to talk about, Tom, the book that you wrote, 10 Steps to Becoming a Better Freelancer. You wrote that recently, correct? Kind of a quarantine was it a quarantine project, or was it a culmination of a whole bunch of stuff?
Yeah, it was. I mean, book writing is always something that I've wanted to do, and I've got a list in my notes of all the different titles, working titles. But yeah, the 10 steps book was just literally getting my thought process about freelancing down in just one asset that I can distribute to people, and as a lead magnet essentially. But yeah, it started with quarantine. I just thought, I'm going to try this, I'm going to make a go of it.
Yeah. And now look at you. And then I know you got another book coming, which we'll touch on, but I was looking at the 10 steps, and a couple of them, we talked about refine your position a little bit just a couple of minutes ago. But make yourself known stood out to me, because I think we all, you and I talked to other freelancers too in the copy co-op group here. But also, they're struggling to position themselves, and like, how do I get high quality clients consistently? But when talking about make yourself known, what do you talk about there? Like, where to market themselves, what channels, how to create content?
Yeah, exactly. Making yourself known is a concept really that's about portraying how good you are, showing the level of skill that you have, and whether that's through content marketing or proof of, other projects that you've done, side projects. It's about getting that knowledge out there and under the noses of the people that will potentially hire you.
Yeah. Do you often, when you create content, I'm just curious, do you promote a lot of the stuff that you've designed? Like when you're creating a piece on Twitter or posting something on Instagram or LinkedIn, just to kind of show, hey, look what I did, here's some results? Because I know there's some people may be off put to that, or you're just bragging about yourself. What do you find with that balance?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the early days as a developer, it was kind of difficult for me because it's not really a visual trade. It's more, code based and things like that. So that didn't really, the portfolio side of it wasn't really massive for me. It was more about sharing the skill that I knew, with people, getting word of mouth basically as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I did have a question to come in from the copy co-op group, and one person was struggling. How do I know what areas to improve on for myself? And I think it's something that I feel like doesn't often get talked about as you're kind of going through this freelance journey and improving. But what would your advice be for there on finding ways? How can I improve in this area?
Yeah, I think you've just got to every now and again just take a reality check and just analyze where you are, and think about the things that went well, and then think about the things that didn't go so well in comparison, and then use that as a tool to, start learning to improve these areas. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I feel like we can easily be just so hard on ourselves too. And sometimes not take it so personal. Just like, maybe it's not the right time. The client has other issues going on. And I feel like we can easily talk ourselves into having this imposter syndrome, or being like, what did I do wrong? How did I mess up here so bad?
Yeah, there's always external factors at play as well. Just because you have one bad job doesn't make you a bad freelancer.
Right. And then we touched on this, Tom, the book that you got coming up. You're talking about freelance pricing, and you had a tweet blow up, almost go viral here. When was that? In June or July?
Yeah, it was the 30th of June. So yeah, like 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah. And you had this huge thread about how to appropriately price your projects. What's been the biggest takeaway from that response from people that you've, communicated with?
Yeah, I mean, the attention that it got surprised me, but I think the biggest takeaway is that no one's really shared that information as candidly as what I did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that's kind of what spurred me to write the book. I just thought I need to expand on this knowledge. People are all asking me questions and things like that. So I thought I'm going to expand on this mindset and put it out as a book. And I'm going to write it in a month, which with a week left is kind of looking like maybe not the smartest decision, but I'll get there. There.
Yeah. So this is a nice little mental break for you, just talking about some other freelance things. So what's been the biggest takeaway, I guess, from people responding to you, like asking you questions, like as part of the whole thread? What have people been like the biggest question that you get from that?
Good question. There's been, to be honest, there's been not really one standout. There's just been that many different ones. It's mainly been around like, what is the best methodology to use? And my standpoint is that realistically, you need to know about them all. That's the main takeaway that, people have been asking for.
Yeah. Talk about value-based pricing. Great. That's probably, is that the preferred method for you?
That's my preferred method now. Yeah. But the whole point of kind of what I was trying to say in the tweet is that it's personal. Pricing is a very personal thing. So you've got to understand all the circumstances, all the variables, understand all the pricing methodologies, and then pick the right one for the right project and the right client. There's no silver bullet is kind of, the mantra that I take. So you need a broader understanding of pricing really to do it effectively.
Yeah. What is the biggest mistake that you see freelancers do with their pricing, or when like even negotiating that with a client?
Yeah, the biggest mistake is like picking an hourly rate and sticking to that for years on end, just because that's what you've always done.
Yeah.
So not analyzing the difference in value between, one client to the next, one project to the next, and obviously not taking into account how your value improves over time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's your process for doing a fixed rate price? Because I know some people talk about taking the hours that you put in, your hourly rate, and then adjusting it. But what's your advice and recommendation there in your own process?
Yeah, so if I'm doing a fixed price, what I'll do is, first thing I do is research the client. Like, who is it? How big are they? What kind of projects have they worked on before? Have they come from an agency? Have they come from another freelancer? And then just try to gauge how valuable I will be on that body of work. So that's the first step. Okay. And then from there is where I try to gauge that value and try and take a slice of it essentially in the price that I give.
Yeah, interesting. I and everybody watching, is if you guys have questions for Tom and I, please feel free to comment if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching in the Facebook group. We're happy to answer some. But you talked about what value am I bringing to this project, which is pretty interesting, because if you're working with an agency, you may not be as valuable. You may not be hands-on. Like, you're talking most likely to an account manager who's dealing with the client whose work you're doing. But if you're working with the sole business owner, you're more engulfed in it. You're more part of the team. Can you elaborate?
Exactly.
There?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to do it when you're working direct with clients, but you can also price with value in mind when you're working with agencies or subcontracting too. So the way that I would do that is try to gauge how much they will be marking up your work for. That's the easy example. So let's say if I'm building a website for an agency that's selling that to their client for £10,000 and I'm charging them, I don't know, £2,000, then that's, there's an £8,000 profit there.
Yeah.
So I'm looking cheap at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel like not a lot of people think about that.
No.
They think
it's
about
a mindset change.
It's like, well, here's what I've done in the past. And it's like, this is their budget. Great. I'll price this. But putting yourself, what value am I going to be part of this project? More so of just how else am I saving them time and being a big part of the success for this? I think it's super important when pricing.
Definitely. It's a mindset change that a lot of freelancers have to go through. And usually they have to go through it with experience. But I'm hoping with the book that I'm writing that it'll give them, a bit of experience through reading. Yeah.
And I know the biggest fear is just the client saying no because you're charging so much. It's like, well, they think I'm like too expensive. But I just, my advice there, and I'm curious what you would say, Tom, is just, you're not going to know if they're going to pay that price unless you actually charge it and let them know this is your rate.
Exactly.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah. The worst thing that they can say is no. And you have to find another client. And I know that is scary at times, but that's the facts, and sometimes you have to experiment to find your true value anyway.
Right. Exactly. Like, if you feel like, I can charge $3,000 for this US dollars, then, let's go for it. And if they say yes, great. It's always such an interesting feeling. Like, you're waiting in limbo of like, well, they say yes. Is this cool? Like, are they gonna, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, your proposal looks great. Let's do this. It's like, and then it's like, they say it so fast, so easily. It's like, shit, should I have done more?
Yeah. It's also kind of fun though, don't you think?
Yeah, it is fun. Especially, it's just like, all right, now this sets the bar. This is the baseline for this type of work and for this type of client. It's like, bookmark that in your head. Like, and then like, how do you approach pricing conversations on a client call? Whether that's via email, your sales call. You get budget right away before you take that next step. What's that early part of your sales process like?
Yeah, definitely. I think qualification early, especially on a price metric, is really important. So I mean, there's two ways to do it really. You can have like on your contact form on your website, you could, have a range of different budgets. And if it doesn't fall within, what you can work with, then you can just say, look, it's not going to work, and maybe recommend someone else.
Right.
Or sometimes if you're having a conversation on the phone, just say, look, my project start at X. And if they get sticker shock straight away, then you know that it's not going to work. But if it looks like it's going to, be okay, then you can move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great advice. I feel like you need to say it starts at this, or I've done a project like this before and I charged XYZ. And I feel like you just need to pause and let them speak. Because if you
get comfortable with that silence.
I feel like you're just going to work it where now you're talking lower. Like you're going to talk yourself out of your actual rate. If you just shut up and let them decide if that's the budget or not.
Yeah, just say a price and literally just stay silent for as long as it takes for them to respond.
Yeah.
And then you'll get such a good read by doing that. It's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. I've had client calls where they are thrown back and they're like, oh, wow, okay. Don't really have that budget. And then they're just like, what can we do for this? And then I feel like you and I share the same mindset. It's like, if you really like the client and they're reducing the price, like you reduce the scope. Don't do all the work for a lower price. Like reduce the scope of work that fits the budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. If you're going to reduce price, you have to reduce scope, because otherwise you just dilute the value of the original quote.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tom, I'm curious, how much client work do you do now? Because I think freelancing, it's like some people stick to just doing their skill set, working on big projects, but now you're doing more books in the mentorship program, monetizing a little bit more. What's the balance like for you?
Yeah, at the minute, I'm doing maybe 25% client work, 75% writing, and building up the mentorship side of the business.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, how has that process been? I mean, I'm sure it's much more gratifying and rewarding at times, helping other people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's probably why I've accelerated it so fast. It's the fulfillment. I just enjoy it so much, and getting the feedback that I've made differences to other freelancers that are maybe a little bit behind where I am now. It's just, it's so nice to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I want to get into a question from a copywriting web development side. Really a question that goes around a lot is, when you're designing a website, what should come first, the copy or the design?
Content first. That's my opinion.
Content first. Coming from a web guy.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm also doing a lot of my own copywriting as well now, and writing and stuff. So I kind of get it from both sides. And I do think that content should come first, because the content would inform the design. Yeah. And then you can make it look pretty around that.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's easier to fit the copy into a design later if you have the right message that you want. And there's plenty of tools. I've been learning about more tools for you to do wireframes and just to put it in there and see how it can look. Do you work with a lot of copywriters on projects in the past? Like, what are some things that help that relationship?
Not really. I mean, most of the time I've been working with like project managers and designers as the developer on the job. So yeah, not many copywriters. Okay. It normally comes in from the clients direct, which is messy at times.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, sometimes when clients write their own copy, unless they have somewhat of a background in it, it's just really all technical jargon and talking about themselves a lot, which I try to stay away from the beginning. Like, they don't really care about the product; they care about how you can improve their life at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Tom, just a couple more questions as we wrap up here. Had a few people saying hi. So guys, again, any questions for us, please feel free. We'd love to have some conversations here. But Tom, I always like asking, what are your go-to resources and digital tools that you use to help run your business every day?
Yeah, good one. I mean, there's three main ones I use. So for the accounting and financial side of things, I use a tool called Free Agent. It's like an online web app, basically, where you do invoicing and it brings in your bank feeds and things like that. Okay. And then the second one is, I mean, you'll notice that I tweet a lot, but a lot of that is scheduled. So at the beginning of the day, I'll write like 10 tweets. And to do that, I use a tool called Hype Fury.
It's called what was it called?
Hype Fury.
Hype Fury. Okay.
Yeah. And it's really good. It's pretty new, but it's really good, and it really helps me to
Write that
crystallize
down.
my thoughts in one go. Yeah, I'll send you an affiliate link later.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, why not? Yeah, we'll share it around because I mean people use Hootsuite, and I feel like that's kind of like a pain in the ass at times. I mean, it's not watching, so it's okay. Yeah, I'm always interested to know some social media tools, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
Just like
it's just pure
10
Twitter
tweets in the morning, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Yeah, so the first thing in the morning when I'm walking my dog, I'm like just drafting them up, and then I just schedule them all throughout the day, and yeah, it works really well for me.
Yeah, it's so interesting, just like writing down your thoughts and just put it out there, because sometimes you can just overthink, and that's the beauty of Twitter. It's just like my best engagement on tweets is just ones that have been like in the moment and just feel authentic, like in my head. But when you overthink it, it seems like they can tell it's really forced in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Doors opened for me when I just started not caring, just putting things out there, putting my thoughts out there and not worrying about it being perfect. And that's when doors started opening for me. Yeah.
Do you have any other specific strategy for Twitter?
Not really. Just that's just my personality. That's how I am. I'm just incredibly frank, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't know if there was like a balance of talk about freelance, or like, is that kind of been the big focus now because you're getting most of that traction?
Yeah, that's the big focus because it's kind of what I know most about. So obviously I know the web development side of things, but there's a lot of people tweeting about that already. So I just thought, what can I do that's a little bit different? And I know there's people in the freelance space too, but I just feel that I'm probably a better freelancer than I am a web developer. So that's where I went.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely valuable and useful. I mean, look what happened with your pricing tweet. People loved hearing that. And I think pricing doesn't get talked about in such depth as you did. I did a YouTube video on it and got some great responses. And then I was like going back to your tweet after it, and I'm like, man, this is like, he went really in depth. Like that book's going to be so valuable after I touched on a couple things. So definitely, man. And I think that's just great advice for people just trying to come up with a content strategy on Twitter too. Is just talk about what you know and like really like off the top, write your thoughts down constantly.
Yeah. And just make sure it's authentic because people can tell if not.
Yeah. Were there any other tools?
I mean, the MailChimp I use for the email marketing side of things.
Okay.
I've started building a bit of an email list off the back of this as well. So yeah, I've been automating, some workflows and things. So MailChimp's been really useful too.
Yeah. I've noticed you use Gumroad. I've been seeing a ton of people using that. How is that tool?
Yeah, I think the main reason that I'm using it is because it's just really quick and easy to sell digital products. And it allowed me to do the pre-order setup too, with the new book.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as a developer, I'm thinking, could I just build this myself? But then I'm thinking, why would I spend the time doing that when I can, just pay a small fee and write the book in the same time? So I just kind of went with the easy option. Yeah,
there you go. Nice. Well, those are, some new ones for me, some new tools you just mentioned. So definitely be looking into that. Yeah, send me that affiliate link for sure for Hype. Last question, Tom, that I have, a quick 2-part question. My favorite question of these Proceed with Passion interviews. And thank you so much for sharing all that you have so far. Are you more burrito or pizza?
Pizza, 100%.
Pizza, 100%. How is the pizza scene in the UK?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, a friend of mine, he makes his own in his own like pizza oven in the back garden, and they're the best that I've had recently. So yeah, UK loves pizza.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a British friend, a couple that moved to Chicago a little bit over 2 years ago, and like being in Chicago, we like think we're the best culinary city in the world. We have so much. But he's like, guys, Chicago's really good, but UK is insane. Like it's much better. And I'm like, interesting. And I don't know. Have you ever been to Chicago? I'd
love to, but I've never been. I've been to America before, and I love the American food. So maybe I'm a little bit biased.
Yeah. Well, to get back to the question here, Tom, I asked burrito or pizza, as you said pizza, because I then want to know, if you were to build a success pizza, what would be the 3 key ingredients, the characteristics?
Confidence. Can I say confidence 3 times? No.
Yeah, you can.
No, I would say like, you know, like when you get a double cheese and double pepperoni pizza, I'm going to go like triple confidence.
There you go. Triple confidence. And I know like in your 10 steps, you talked about, you know, holding yourself accountable. And I feel like that almost goes hand in hand too. Just having that
definitely
in yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And just making sure that you get things done that you say you'll get done when you say you're gonna do them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So confidence, confidence, confidence. The double the meat lovers trio. Oh, Tom, dude, that's great. Tom, man, that's it. Thank you so much, man. This was great. I think, you know, we dove into a lot of topics, but, you know, really straightforward and really insightful stuff. I know a lot of people will find this valuable. So thank you for the time today.
Yeah, thank you, Terry, as well. It's been real fun.
Yeah, and now I'll give you the floor. You can talk a little bit more about the book coming up that you have written, anything else you want to promote, and where people can find you across the internet.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. That's the main place that I hang out, and I'm at Tom_Hirst there. And I have a new book called Pricing Freelance Projects coming out on the 30th of July. And you can find the link to that in my Twitter bio.
There you go. All right, Tom, thank you so much. And everybody watching, if you want to tune in here in a little bit, we're going to play a live video game show of Whose Tagline Is It Anyway with Tom. Even though he might not be, you know, the term writer, it's not really your title, but you're going to give it a shot, which I appreciate. But this was great, Tom. Thank you again for stopping by and having a conversation with me.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. It's been great.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Proceed with Passion. Cheers.
Cheers.